Well, and welcome. You're watching news now on News Central TV. I am Judith at TV. Top stories at this hour. President Tinubu hosts Senegalese President Faye, calls for regional unity to defeat terrorism, banditry. Constitutional Court affirms Idris Deby's victory in Chad's disputed poll. Preparations hit up for Mauritania's presidential elections as former leader Aziz declares intention to run. Details shortly. We'll begin in Nigeria, where the country's president, President Bola Tinubu, on Thursday said West African countries must unite to crush banditry, terrorism, and other criminal activities plaguing the region. President Tinubu stated this at the presidential villa in Abuja while receiving President Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal. He called for an alignment of purpose and structure in West Africa to effectively address the challenges confronting the region. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngalale, the Tinubu described Nigeria and Senegal as brotherly nations, recounting both countries' long history of cooperation, as he urged Faye to persuade other countries that have left the ECOWAS bloc to come back into the fold. On his part, the Senegalese president called for the reactivation of the Nigeria-Senegal Joint Commission to strengthen bilateral relations in diplomacy, trade, and other spheres. And on to Nigeria's capital, where residents of Barizi in Kwabu in Kubwa, Bari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, says reports of both 3 persons killed in the recent violent clash in the community is false. They also add that the clash was between scavengers, locally called Babambula, and residents of the community, and did not have any religious intonation. News Central's Imano Bungadu reports.
It's recovery time for the residents of Biazin Kubwa, a suburb in Nigeria's federal capital. Following the clash that recently occurred in the community, some of the residents say the attack still lingers in their minds.
There's another woman here. She do POS. They collect her bag, collect her money. From there, they mash her, they cut her. They enter this Wasobia shop here. They spot the TV, all of them, they run. They leave that place. All the top of pepper soup, the mother said they poured everything away. They leave that place. They meet another girl here. She do POS here. They knock on that with matches, all everything. They leave that place. They go to Minakota. They go to my own wife's shop. They scatter everything, both the show glass, both the bonds, everything that said they scatter everything. They move on.
Although tension returned back to the community following a claim that some of the victims had lost their lives, the claim turned out to be false.
I want to something. I say, when I call you and did something, he said, one sister, I say, yeah, no be toilet. Now so, now you carry knife, one children. All of us, we did my shop, they helping me. One guy, baggy, and he collect the knife. Before I know, don't break your bottle.
I come carry my bag for BG. I carry my bag, and I come to BG. All this Abuja know say I'm a Yoruba man. Now I come see they carry cloth like knock me. Come carry stick, they knock me. Everybody gonna see me say wetin happen. Now I come run, come on my shed, run, go station, go report. Make government or those shabuki Mebola make it help us. Now because now they cause all the problem. If you call Mobela now say, may you no carry this thing, it will be forced to carry this thing. Now you go to carry jackknife, say won't kill you.
Leaders of the different ethnic groups in the community insist that there is now peace and the time for crisis is over.
But if anybody said me say we lost 2 lives, we lost 3 lives, it's a lie. If there is, tell me where the dead body is. Is it in the mortuary? If there is, tell me the house that person comes from. I want to know. Tell me the family of that person. There's nothing like that. We have not lost any life. But people succeeded. They got so many injuries.
The Federal Capital Territory remains a model of peace to other states and their communities. It is hoped that the peace restored back to BRG community in Kubwa will be sustained. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
Indiscriminate rustling of cattle, killing of livestock, and attacks on herders have been described as barbaric acts capable of denying any given society peace or development. Now, this was the cry of the Gan'allah Fulani Development Association of Nigeria, Plateau State chapter, at a press briefing following an attack on their community in Bassa local government area of Plateau State. News Central's Chizoba Aniowe tells us more.
Over the years, both Fulanis and locals in Plateau State have lived, intermarried, and transacted businesses together. However, it has become worrisome how things have degenerated to the level where there is mutual distrust among the once peaceful neighbors after an attack is carried out on any of their communities. Going by the allegations of this Fulani Development Association here, over 600 of their cattle and other livestock have been rustled, more than 150 brutally killed, and more painful, the lives of 2 herders that were recorded in the past 2 weeks.
The attack was also unprovoked because there was no any encroachment or destruction of farm or any attack that will warrant reprisal capable of unleashing such a barbaric and inhuman killing of herders and their cows. We are left in doubt and demand for answers as to the reason why the attack was carried out by the irregular militia.
As part of efforts in building on the peace process on the plateau, Chairman of the association has called on relevant stakeholders to take a listen to these demands of theirs.
We appeal to the federal and state governments, security agencies, and other stakeholders to, 1, arrest and with immediate effect the masterminds of the attack. Number 2, pay compensation to alleviate the sufferings of the surviving victims. Number 3, provide protection to our people and their source of livelihood against provocation, intimidation, isolated killings, and maiming.
Their call for a restraining order by relevant authorities to marauders, cattle rustlers, rumor peddlers, and illegal arms dealers remains one of their ways out. Also, there is need to look at the economic, political, and cultural implications of these attacks for peace building and thus establish conflict resolution strategies. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Aniowe.
Negotiations between the federal government and organized labor on the proposed new national minimum wage of 48,000 naira are set to resume. There are indications that the government may increase the proposed amount. The chairman of the Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage, Alhaji Bukar Guni, invited labor leaders to continue negotiations on May 21st of 2024. Now, this invitation followed the workout of Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and Trade Union Congress, TUC, leaders from the negotiation committee due to the government's offer. NLC President Joa Jore insisted on a minimum wage of 615,000 naira, blaming the government and the organized private sector for the breakdown in negotiations. The Director General of the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, Adewale Smith Oyeridin, urged the unions to reconsider their position and return to the negotiation table. And now joining us in the news now to discuss this further is Mohammed Abdullahi. He's a public relations analyst and he joins me via video chat. A very good morning to you, Mohammed. Let's get started very quickly. The NLC TUC worked out of the initial negotiations due to the government's proposed minimum wage of 48,000 naira, which is far below their demand of 615,000 naira. I need to make that clear. So as negotiations are set to resume, what do you think are the main, sticking points that they need to be addressed for both parties to reach a consensus, and how can these be effectively navigated?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Nigerians. I think, to be quite honest, the government is actually not serious with the proposal of 48,000. To put that in context, I want to drag us back to 1991 when Nigeria had actually 250 naira as its minimum wage. As at then, the dollar to naira is actually 8 naira. $1 equals 8 naira. So if you divide that, you have about $31 as our minimum wage. If you drag to 2000, the minimum wage was 5,500, and the exchange rate was about 85 naira then. So it means it was about $65. 2011, it was 19,000. And then the dollar averagely was about 150. So we had a 126. If you see the trajectory, it's like, the minimum wage is increasing. And if you get back to 2019, when the current 30,000, even though most of the states are actually not paying, it's only the federal government that's paying. The average exchange rate, before now used to be 300, 350, and we have like $100, as part of our minimum wage. But now, 48,000 naira, you have the exchange rate to be about at least, average of 1,300, which means we have $37. In fact, we are actually going back to 1991 in terms of the minimum wage. Instead of increase in terms of inflation of what workers are facing, it's like we are actually going back to 1991 from $100 minimum wage to $37. If you look at the exchange rate, I think that's extremely unfair on workers. If you look at the inflation rate and, the cost of living at the moment in Nigeria, come on. I think this is really not fair. And the government, I will advise, need to put something very tangible on the table in order to get the labor unions to talk again. If not, this is really not a negotiation at all. This is my own opinion. I don't speak for the labor, but I think seriously, we are not making a headway with a $37 minimum wage at this moment with regards to.
So how then can they come to a consensus? How can they come to an agreement where they're able to navigate both sides and come to a point that is agreeable or acceptable on both ends?
What is acceptable, at least, is the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, at least from $100, talking about the exchange rate, we need to move far above. At least perhaps maybe a $150 or a $200 at this moment will perhaps cushion the effect of what workers go through in terms of transportation, rent, feeding, and so on and so forth. And perhaps labor will also be able to shift ground from the 650,000 that they are demanding, to meet, the government at halfway. But I think for 8,000 is a no-go area at the moment. I am very sure labor will not agree to this in any way.
Right. The DG of NECA has urged the unions to reconsider their position and return to the negotiation table, right? And how crucial is the role of an organized private sector in these negotiations? Because we know organized private sector, as far as I know, an entry-level salary is between 120, 150 marker, right? So, and what promises or compromises or contributions could they make to help, bridge the gap between the government's offer and the union's demands?
Yes, I think what is important for the private sector is that very many, like you mentioned, perhaps even in the time past, have been paying perhaps even above wage. But it's still very sad that even the state governments are unable to pay the 30,000 minimum wage at the moment. You understand? So I think what is really important is not the private sector, because perhaps they have been meeting these obligations even before that. But I think what is most important is for government of the day, both the federal government and the state government, to find ways of, getting funds in order to, be able to pay the agreeable minimum wage as at when due. And how do they do this? I think that is what the question should be. The question should be that we need to cut a whole lot of costs in terms of governance. You understand? A governor perhaps having, there are reports of some governors having 100 media aides, and so on and so forth. What do you need that for? Perhaps even the president having 50-something ministers, in the cabinet. What is the essence? So we need
assistants, special advisors, special assistant, technical advisors.
Yes. So you need a lot of cutting cost measures.
Mohamed Abdullahi is a public affairs analyst, a public relations analyst, I beg your pardon, And he joined me earlier on the news to discuss the minimum wage and NLC and TUC going back to the table to renegotiate and resume discussions with the federal government. We'll take a short break at this point on News Now. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. Hi, and welcome back. Nigeria's electoral body says that plans have been concluded to conduct rerun elections in several constituencies across the country without political representation. The chairman of the commission made this known while meeting with heads of security agencies as part of the commission's engagement with stakeholders ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship elections. Amadin Uyi reports.
It was a meeting with heads of security agencies in the country. The meeting is part of a series of engagement by Nigeria's electoral body. The chairman of the body gave an update on the security situation in the last off-cycle polls across the country.
On the 23rd of January, we met to review the security arrangement for the by-elections and court-ordered rerun elections in 26 states of the Federation. I am glad to report that except for 2 state constituencies in Enugu and Kano states, the elections in 45 constituencies have been concluded without major incidents and winners declared.
He says that efforts are being put in place to conduct elections in the remaining constituencies without political representation.
Following consultations with stakeholders, the Commission is remobilizing to conclude the outstanding rerun elections in Enugu South 1 state constituency of Enugu State and Gari, formerly known as Kunchi local government area, for the Garis Anyawa state constituency of Kano State. Similarly, I would like to inform you of vacancies in 4 states of the Federation that will necessitate by-elections in 3 state assembly constituencies and 1 federal constituency as a result of death or resignation of honorable members. We look forward to working with the security agencies to secure the environment without which peaceful elections won't happen.
The National Security Advisor, who was represented at the meeting, commended the performance of security agencies in the last off-cycle elections and urged them to be more sensitive in deploying personnel for the upcoming Edo and Ondo states governorship polls.
We should be a bit more careful in our deployments in terms of the numbers so that we will not overburden the system.
The Commission also urged voters to take advantage of the ongoing continuous voters registration. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Really, that montage was necessary, given the major showdown that is pretty much imminent between the state governor and Dasimilalayi Fubara and the 23 local government chairmen of the state, as he warned the council bosses to be mindful of their actions as their tenure elapses in a few days. Now, Fubara handed down the warning of the flag-off of the Elele Omuku road in the state on Thursday. The governor advised against hurting anyone in the guise of supporting any politician in the state. And still in Rivers State, the PDP Stakeholders Forum has accused the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Umar Damagu, of allegedly receiving the sum of $2 million for the party to allow the lawyers of the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, to file secret processes to stop the court from declaring vacant the seats of the 27 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who left the PDP to APC. The group alleged that Umar Damagu received the money along with the PDP National Legal Advisor on behalf of the National Working Committee of the party. Now, in a statement by the Publicity Secretary of the group, Malam Abubakar Isa, it alleged that one of the members of the National Working Committee who was privy to the deal confided in him that though he has received his own share of the money, he was not happy with the way the party was drifting. Issa further alleged that the processes will be filed by Dr. Joshua Musa San as a well-known Wike's lawyer on behalf of PDP, and will vehemently maintain that the court should not sack the Rivers lawmakers who defected to another political party in violation of the law. And now joining us on the news is engineer Libosi Yamabana, and he's a chairman, Rivers State Ethnic Youth Leaders Coalition, and he joins us now to discuss this further. Welcome, Libosi. This gets started very quickly. The PDP Stakeholders Forum has accused the acting national chairman, that's Umar Damagum, and the national legal advisor of receiving $2 million to allow the lawyers of the FCT minister, and that's Innocent Wike, former governor of Rivers State, to file secret court processes. How credible do you find these allegations, and what impact could they have on the PDP's, internal stability and even public image?
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by saying an adage that says that once bitten, twice shy. We were in this nation just recently when the PDP national leadership, the National Working Committee, set up caretaker with instruction that those that will make up the caretaker membership will be the already existing structure, that even in the place of death, nobody should be replaced. But when it came to the case of Rivers State, the list was infiltrated with those that were not ab initio executives of the party. Until now, the national leadership of PDP is still treating that with levity. It means the party was appropriated and reprobated, which is very, very sad. And this has to do with, this took us to where stakeholders were calling for the resignation and or the removal of the acting chairman during the NEC meeting. And to our chagrin too, that did not sail through. And there has been allegations, pundits all over the party they have not said it in mistakable terms. They've said it in unmistakable terms, that the man behind all of these shenanigans is the former governor of Rivers State, whom we don't know if he is a member of the PDP or APC at the moment. And you see, this is a party that I contested election under in the last electioneering period. I ran for House of Reps. I know what happened to me, consequence to this same man, His Excellency, the former governor of Rivers State, perpetrated under this same party, But we are trying to see how we can rebuild the party, because I'm also a stakeholder of the party. But every day, when we make one positive move, Damagum-led leadership will take us back, to the dungeon, which is not healthy for this party, because this party is determined to reclaim this nation from the opposition party, because ordinarily they were the leading party. So if we continue like this, I do not see that dream coming through anytime soon. I can't see it, because Nigerians are watching. The entire globe, is watching. And how did we get to this crossroad? Assuming we are already in this crossroad, why can't the leadership of the party be decisive in, taking steps that will restore the lost glory, the seeming lost glory of the party? That said, the issue of Rivers State, we want to also reiterate that Rivers people in PDP, we are not going to accept that list. I don't know why the dilly-dally, they have to do the right thing in respect to that scenario. The accusation by stakeholders.
I'm going to stop you there for a second and ask you this. You just referred to the members of the PDP, right? So the accusations suggest there's been accusations of, just to get this right, an alleged secret court processes aimed to prevent the court, from declaring the seats of the 27 defected Rivers State House of Assembly members vacant, right? Now, these accusations suggest a significant rift within the PDP, right? With some members allegedly being prioritizing, personal gains over party unity. How serious is this internal conflict within the PDP? Since you just said you're a stakeholder, you're also a member and also ran under the umbrella of the party. What are the potential long-term consequences for the party if these divisions are not resolved?
The consequences is already around us. You know, one of our former leaders, Emeka Ihedioha, he has resigned from the party with an avalanche of other stakeholders in the southeast. Those are the consequences. And for the fact that the governor of Rivers State is a man that has principle, a man with very high level of impeccable integrity, for the fact that he's keeping quiet by way of not coming publicly and speaking to them to do the right thing and they are refusing. They are taking him for granted, because if he decides to leave this state that is known as PDP state since the inception of democratic dispensation, I tell you that if Fubara leaves the party will never win this state again. Not in any other official election. I can tell you because I am on the ground. Because Governor Fubara controls the creme de la creme of Rivers people, and especially the young people. The youth are in support of the governor. You can see it manifest in the solidarity walks and Thanksgiving that went across the states, where young people, both elders and women alike, came out spontaneously to give this governor support. This governor is on the ground. So PDP may be digging their grave if they don't listen to voice of good reasoning. By allowing the governor, whom is the leader of the party in the states, manage the party to its glory. Because what they are doing, to me, is purely a shenanigan. I think just like people are now accusing them of collecting money, we don't have any doubt to discountenance that accusation because of the precedents that they have laid. Otherwise, why would you not want to correct a list the way you had initially directed it to be? Is it the fear of one man? Is one man more than the party?
Speaking of allegations, right, the FCT minister and also former governor of Rivers State, and that's Nyesom Wike, is allegedly involved in the scheme to prevent the court from, declaring the seats that are vacant, and is said to be positioning himself to regain control of Rivers State's political landscape. What are Wike's motivations and objectives in this scenario, and how might his actions influence his, standing within the PDP and Nigeria's politics as a whole?
We agitated to call on the party to sack Wike from that party because Wike is no longer a member of the party. This is a man that has told Nigerians that in 2027, he will support Tinubu. We are not against that because the governor of Rivers State is also supporting Tinubu. But is it indeed? Is it just in words? Is it really indeed? Can he match those words with actions? Because from what we are seeing, there are information available to us from sources we cannot doubt. And even the Wike is hashing plan to run against Tinubu in 2027. And him being a man that says one thing and does the other, we will not be surprised if that happens. But I can tell you that the current governor, who campaigned for Tinubu during the elections, have also come to us, to all Rivers stakeholders, to also appeal to us that in 2027 we are supporting Tinubu. That is his message all over the place. Even during this 1 year anniversary to commemorate his tenure, it is what he's saying everywhere, that we are supporting the president in the next election. It was the governor, the current governor that, influenced Rivers people to give the president that support. Yes, we can play this role. So having said that, the party itself, if the party, wants to do what is right, if they really want the growth of the party, those that hold sway today, they must be swift in what they have to do. And yes, just yesterday, I read a message from the National Publicity Secretary denying those allegations. But it was the case too, when strange names was found on the Rivers list. The National Organizing Secretary wrote a letter denouncing it. But till now, nothing has been done. So we don't want to do the more you look, the less you see. We want decisive action that must be implemented immediately.
Lebosi, many thanks.
Because they have filed a process in courts. Who told you they cannot? Who told you they can that thing? Because money, this leadership of PDP, this current leadership of PDP, which we are yearning for their removal, money has been their hallmark. They have sold their conscience, and I pity for them because the likes of those that are there, money should not sway them if they have any out of integrity left.
Is money really the problem in Nigeria? When you think about all of our major problems, really, it's always about money, isn't it? At the end of the day, it always comes down to money and power. But Lebosi, many thanks for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this with us. You're watching news now on News Central TV. So stay with us. But coming up, Constitutional Court affirms Idris Deby's victory in Chad's disputed poll. We'll bring you details after the break. Stay right. And welcome back. The highest decision-making body of the civil rights organization AfriForum says it's committed to see the legal battle against national health insurance through till the end in South Africa. AfriForum's board of directors signed a resolution and will file a lawsuit against the government and undertake that this lawsuit will continue until all remedies have been exhausted. AfriForum is one of several role players who have announced a legal battle against NHI and intends to do so by means of a class action together with an interim application to suspend the application thereof. The bill was signed by President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa on Wednesday. And joining us on the news to discuss this further is Louis Boshoff. He is the campaign officer at AfriForum. Louis, many thanks for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. We're pressed for time, so let's get started very quickly. Can you explain why AfriForum has decided to file a lawsuit against the government over the signing of the NHI bill? And what specific concerns do you have about the bill?
So what is characteristic of the NHI bill is not only the fact that the South African government intends to offer health insurance to South Africans, but also that in the end it will in effect ban private health insurance, or at least ban private health insurance from covering the same health services that the state's NHI fund intends to cover. And we believe this is absolutely a move in the wrong direction, and it can possibly lead to economic devastation for South Africa because it requires huge tax increases, and it will drive healthcare professionals out of the country, frankly.
Right. Then what are your main concerns about the NHI bill? I know you just pointed to a few, right? But is it the proposed funding mechanism? Is it the potential impact on private healthcare providers? Or something else? Just just help us list a number.
Yeah, so if we look at the past, say, 20 or 30 years of the South African healthcare system, the private sector has all the while been outperforming the public sector. And NHI is basically a move that moves more resources towards the government and more money towards the inefficient half of the South African healthcare sector. So in the end, it will only lead to less healthcare being available to South Africans.
You just talked about it, affecting South Africans with them having less access to it. Why do you believe it's clearly, do you think it's not in the best interest of the country then, and do you think it would affect generally the South African healthcare system?
Yes, so it's not just that it's they need a little bit of money or something like that. The current budget allocated to NHI is less than a hundredth of what is required to run the system in the end. And there's simply no way in which taxes could be increased to such a degree that there will be enough tax money gained by the government to run this system. So any attempt to that will lead to less consumer spending, less economic activity, less job creation, also which the government claims to be doing in South Africa. So there's no rocket science behind it. NHI requires huge tax increases, which will devastate South Africa's economy, and we need to prevent that because the healthcare system just is one part of the economy and cannot be separated from economic activity.
Right. Let's look at the NHI bill in its entirety, right? Many have, there have been talks saying that, the NHI bill is unconstitutional. Can you explain what specific provisions of the bill you believe are that they claim to be unconstitutional, and why is this the case?
So I'd like to point first to Section 27 of the South African Constitution, which requires the government to realize progressive access to healthcare for South Africans, meaning whatever policy is instituted by the government should lead to more people having access to healthcare. And we believe NHI will lead to the opposite and is, as such, unconstitutional, going in exactly the opposite direction of what the Constitution requires. But also we are concerned about the rights and freedoms of both patients and health workers, because healthcare workers will be required to treat patients free at point of charge, with a promise of being refunded by the government's NHI fund, which we believe cannot be run successfully. There won't be enough money to refund, yet healthcare workers will probably be required to deliver those services.
Right. And lastly, before I let you go, Lewis, we understand that AfriForum is, filing a lawsuit. What do you intend to achieve with this lawsuit, and what do you hope the outcome will be at the end?
So we hope for the NHI Act to be repealed in its entirety, but if the outcome is only certain amendments, depending on what sections of the Act or are required to be amended, we might be satisfied with that outcome.
Lewis, many thanks for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
Thank you.
We'll move now to Chad, where its Constitutional Council has upheld the results of the nation's presidential election that declared interim military ruler Mahamat Debi the winner. It also rejected challenges by two losing candidates in the May 6th elections. The Central African country's electoral body declared General Debi winner of the election with 61% of the vote, with his closest rival, Prime Minister Success Masra, polling at 19%. Masra had disputed the result, claiming his victory had been stolen from the people. Some opposition candidates had also alleged irregularities on polling day. Now, Chad becomes the first of the countries where the military seized power in West and Central Africa in recent years to hold elections and restore civilian rule.
Le candidat Mahamat Idriss Déby Itno, ayant obtenu 3 777 279, soit plus de la majorité absolue des suffrages exprimés, qu'il convient de le déclarer élu président de la République, chef de l'État.
And on to Ethiopia, where on Thursday objected to a speech delivered by the U.S. ambassador urging better protection of human rights, with the foreign ministry calling the address unsolicited and ill-advised. Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs denounced the speech on Thursday, saying it contained allegations against and unsolicited advice to the government of Ethiopia. Now, while visiting a recently restored historical building in capital Addis Ababa on Wednesday, Ambassador Elvin Masinga called for a transparent transitional justice process to address reports of extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detentions, as well as sexual violence and other abuses. He called on fighters from various armed ethnic factions, including the Oromo Liberation Army, which the government considers a terrorist organization, the Fano Self-Defense Militia, and the Tigray People's Liberation Front to make their demands through dialogue rather than violence. The current president of Mauritania, and that is Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, and his imprisoned predecessor, Mohamed Ould Aziz, who was earlier declared out of the race, are among the 8 individuals who have filed to run for the June 29 presidential election. Prospective contenders had until Monday and Wednesday to register their candidacies. Aziz led the pivotal country between North and Sub-Saharan Africa between 2008 and 2019 and is currently in prison. On Tuesday, the former leader's spokesman said he was out of the running because he lacked the necessary sponsorships. But in a surprise move, Aziz headed to the Constitutional Council on the night of the deadline under heavy escort to submit his paperwork. Now watching news now on News Central TV. We go on a short break. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. The youth of Borno State have revived the tradition of inter-community football matches, creating a powerful platform for peace and understanding. Borno Junior League, a tournament which brings together teams from various communities across the state, has become a symbol of hope and a testament to the power of sports to bridge divides. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
About 20 to 30 years ago, the Alkanami Warriors Football Club of Borno used to be one of the leading football clubs in Nigeria. But now, the insurgency that ravaged several communities in the state has taken the shine of the club. This tournament has become a beacon of hope for the region and an opportunity to pull out local talent.
Borno State have been going out playing under 15, under 18 in diverse league of the stages we have in Nigeria, and then we want to develop children to know that they are also, if at all they did well, they will be included in such a movement.
The enthusiasm and joy on the faces of the youth during these matches is truly inspiring.
I'll say it's kind of a nice adventure. I really like it. It's fun to be here. And I can't wait for them to finish the match and see who's going to win at the long end.
We want from the government to take care of our players, to train well, and to proceed them to another levels.
I feel so excited. I'm very happy, but it's my first time here.
The tournament has not only garnered the support of the local authorities, but has also attracted the attention of the broader community.
Ina buri inga na buga a Alkanami. Wannan ligin da aka buga gaskiya Borno Junior League nan yayi sosai.
Northerners, naturally, we are blessed with football, but we just don't value it. Especially, when it comes to Borno. Borno players are very good, very fantastic players. Look at the Kelemi Warriors. So we need more of that. So that's the reason why we want to start grassroots and brush it.
Families and well-wishers have been enthusiastically attending the matches, cheering on the players.
I've started this thing in Ghana. So I'm from Borno, and I said, this is my place. Let me do something that, will bring the youth together and will bring out the beautiful game in the grassroots football of Borno State. So we need more players, more teams, more fans. Let's unite ourselves through football. That's the reason behind all this Borno Junior League.
As the intercommunity football matches continue to gain momentum, the people of Borno State are hopeful that this will serve as a model for other communities, oiling the wheel of lasting peace and reconciliation. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. President Tinubu hosts Senegalese President Faye, calls for regional unity to defeat terrorism and banditry. Constitutional Court affirms Idris Derby's victory in Chad's disputed poll. Preparations hit up for Mauritania presidential elections as former leader Aziz declares intention to run. Now remember that you can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and do follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Time channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV.